Hey there, welcome back. Thanks for joining us here, Simply Worldbuilding. I'm just a kid, I know that it's not fair.
And I'm Angular Damping. And today, we're going to be taking a look at one of the civilizations very heavily inspired from the very beginning of the conception of this world. By them, I mean the people to do with the wind dragons. The sort of, I think we were going with like sort of Eastern dragon sort of inspiration for these ones.
Long boys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the technical name. We're going with long boys.
Long boys.
That's my final answer. But yeah, so we're going to be delving into them as a society. I guess I should probably have our little set
society.
of. Do we? Oh shit. So they're kind of a civilization.
Yes.
Not necessarily a city-state. I wouldn't call them a country.
Yeah, they're like an independent semi-nation.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, not terribly far off from a city-state, except that they're, I don't know, they're unique.
Yeah.
And I love that about them.
Because that's the thing is even the people over in Dodd League, which was the mountain dragon, like they're definitely like a city-state. Like they're,
yes.
But I think that's more in sort of dwarf nature to be like a built city with defenses and stuff like that. Whereas for these folk, I just don't see so much of it is about freedom and being nomadic in the first place. So yeah, there's really not much to, quote unquote, like country pride or anything like that.
So, quick reminder on the nation we're going to be covering today is they are a separate entity from any of the close nations. They are entirely based in like small villages atop very tall, freestanding like rock formations in the ocean off the coast in sort of like a Halong Bay type of way. And these are the people who greatly revere and allegedly speak to and have a religion entirely based around these like dragons of the four wind, these like very long, like Eastern style dragons, the long boys where they have no real method of flying other than that they do. And so that's these guys, in case you need a refresher. We're finally moving on to them.
Yeah, and so let's see, things to nail down. Allies and enemies.
I don't know that they have
Either.
enemies in a nation.
Yeah.
Like as like a large power. I think that. Well, I mean, I was gonna say also like pirates, because who aren't they the enemies of?
Yeah.
But at the same point, they don't really have like material wealth.
Yeah, you're not going to be really stealing much. The only thing you could possibly take from them pretty well is knowledge, because...
Yeah, and this isn't civilization where you can pillage a tile and gain culture from them. So like, I don't think they're terribly worried about, stopping by and looting these guys.
Yeah, and that is kind of the thing, is like the whole thing behind these people is the fact that they are very knowledgeable and can even, like, in many cases, predict the future and stuff like that. And so the only time you would actually want to threaten them is in order to try and get that sort of information out of them. In which case, they're probably just going to tell you, like, well, I'm pretty well the person in control of that whole situation.
Yeah. And also, I think that if, like, because this is viewed as largely a religion, and assumably if you, like... I mean, hey, I'm not super caught up on my lore, but, like, I don't think that I recall a time where, like, Christians worldwide went and raided the Vatican. Did that happen? I missed that episode if that's the case. But it seems wrong to, like, follow a religion, and so you have interest in the knowledge, and decide to go loot and pillage and kill to get it out of the people who are the top of your religion.
Well, I could see, like, a powerful entity that does not care for the religion to... try and get that, but they're also in such a defensive position that I don't see it being possible
100%.
to actually like. This is the thing, is it's barely possible for like two people at one time to venture up these places. Like, it's going to be an incredibly treacherous way to get up like these sort of mesas.
Mesas, right?
Yeah, pretty sure it's mesas.
That is correct, yeah.
It's okay. I have thoroughly learned mesas after the
Mesa
embarrassment of
debacle.
episode 3 or whatever. Kind of example that I could show, but hey, maybe we pop up in the center here a little picture of what I'm envisioning, where it's very, very like steep on the edges, and it's got a big old plate on the top.
Well, I don't know the name of it, but there's one place like that in Australia that's kind of famous.
Yeah, totally. I feel like that's. I'm not going to embarrass myself. Sorry, Australia.
And yeah, so like the ability to just actually try and invade these people it's virtually impossible. And
Yeah.
so anyone who's actually up on where they live
yeah.
at the very peaks is going.
Well, I mean, like if you're getting invaded, like cut a rope, drop a rock, like you are so defended that you can essentially disregard an invasion entirely.
Yeah. And so that's the thing, is so the only access anyone's actually ever going to have to this knowledge is when these people decide to venture out into the world.
Yes, and speaking of, that was one of the like core things behind this place as well, is that we decided they were going to have like envoys or emissaries that kind of go out into like especially capital cities if they're welcomed there, and sort of be like the dragon whisperer to sort of like tell these omens that have been whispered to them by the dragons, if you believe in that. I do. Yeah, so they're going to kind of like send out these envoys around the world that'll sort of distill that knowledge out to the public.
Yeah, I think them gaining prophecies and then bringing them to people, I think, is going to be kind of part of their religion, because like the dragon wouldn't. I don't think the dragons would give you a prophecy that was not meant to be told.
Yeah.
Or if they did, you're not leaving to go tell them.
Yeah.
You're not
wouldn't hear about it if there was.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
So the fact that, there would probably be these sort of nomadic masters who would go and try and relay this information, you could, welcome them and say, excellent, thank you. Would you care to elaborate? Or you can try and capture them and try and take any other knowledge that they have. In which case, I'm pretty sure these people would be disciplined enough where it's just like, you can literally just kill me. Like, I'm not giving you any more than I've been instructed to.
Yeah.
So that's in the term of enemies, it's not even going to be the enemies of like the people. It's going to be enemies of a singular prophet, so to speak. Because they're just going to be greedy for the knowledge that they have. And it'd be like, well, tell me more than you were supposed to tell me. In which case they'll just say no and probably get tortured and die. But them's the breaks, I guess.
Wah, 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 wah.
They also so they don't necessarily have allies or enemies, because they're in such an entirely neutral party for the most part.
Hear me out.
Okay.
I think maybe not ally, but I think they have a good relationship with the triplet cities nearby.
Okay.
In the form of like not an allyship, because what do either of them really truly have to gain?
Well, there's also obligation within being an ally with someone.
Yeah, well, because like you don't need defense if you're these guys. So you don't need an ally to defend you. But also,
it's not like they're going to
give
give them
offer.
Yeah, it's not like they're going to give them sneak peeks on prophecies or
Yeah.
anything like that either. So it doesn't make sense both ways.
But I think that they'll have a good relationship, being like in proximity, but neither of them in each other's way.
Yeah, and I guess like anytime they're like, hey, we could use some seeds because like you don't really get a lot of crops up here. We need some food, and
the fish have been bad this year. Bad
Yeah.
year for fish.
yeah. So like I can see like a kind hand being.
Definitely. Friendly but not allied necessarily.
Yeah, exactly. Like it kind of what you might encounter with, I mean, really almost any sort of like monk collection of people. Like they very humbly will hopefully come down and, give a helping hand and receive a helping hand and kind of go from there. So that does make sense. But that's, basically purely a proximity thing, yeah.
And another thing, I was actually thinking a borderline actual alliance with Furos.
Okay.
Because this is a very like diverse and unique and accepting place that is going to take in cultures from all kinds of places, and so would possibly be more inclined to accept and believe and encourage this place. Like, they might actually like have kind of a big following here, and so they might have like, not necessarily this is like, oh, the dominant religion, and so this is like the holy city or something like that, but nevertheless like an important cultural entity, this
That
place.
they
And-
might consider it like, because this is the thing, is like, I feel like basically how you would consider any ally or enemy to this place is basically how they feel about the religion behind
100%. That's the only real way that they interact with anybody else.
anybody in the first place. So yeah, that's going to be the entire interpretive structure.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there might be the people of Firos might value these people's input and accepting
Definitely.
them and coming
Yeah.
in. So like, yeah, again, you wouldn't call them allies, but they're excited when they do end up seeing one of
Yeah,
these
and I
monks.
think that they want to look out for them maybe more personally and stronger than anybody else would, because of like, I assume that they have like a pretty good acceptance of this religion and these people and this culture.
So here's something. It might be a little bit of a one-sided sort of allyship, because again, I don't think these people are going to, just in the fact that they just feel like they're going to be
Yeah.
super neutral. So even
Yeah.
if someone's like, "Oh, you're an ally," it's like, we appreciate your accepting of us and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But do you think it might be interesting if the reason that happened is because there's a specific prophecy that was told to Firos at one point that may have prevented disaster, or in some sort of way, or gave them some sort of leg up in an instance where now it's like you guys helped us through a serious time, so it is like not obligation, but it's just like it's an appreciation towards them. Do you think maybe that happened?
Yeah, I think that's a cool idea. It could be something as simple as like, ooh, the dragon of the southeast said that this is going to be a bad year for rain, and then like, you know, they store up some crops and dam some water and stuff like that, and then sure enough, like, yeah, they just get like hit with a nasty drought, and then they're like, whoa, that actually probably would have killed people. So thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it could be
something like that, you know.
Yeah, we can maybe put a pin in that, but that would be an interesting.
Yeah.
It would be an interesting thing, and it's also something that kind of makes Firos almost like the it's going to be. The other lands are jealous of Firos, I think, in a certain respect, and that might be another reason why, because it's such a excellent place with lots of people, lots of food, water, etc., and also they happen to, you know, occasionally get a helping hand from like literal prophets and stuff like that. So it's just another
anything
thing
that
makes
helps them
Firos
stay on top. You
yeah,
know?
but either way, so back to that, this place. Economic status and development, none. like
Virtually no economy. It's funny, we have multiple of those.
Yeah.
Where we're like economic status, like
not
there
much.
isn't really an economy. Yeah.
I mean, we have plenty of places that do as well. Like
Yeah.
anything, most things that are based around this sort of central canal, or it is part of the ocean, but just like this little strait here, they have a lot of economic power, and it seems like the
Totally.
places that are stationed further away don't. And I mean, that just makes a lot of sense to me in the first place. But how could these people have an economy? They might if there was like means of flight.
Yeah.
But like you're trekking up and down every time. You know what I mean? Like
I think that any semblance of an economy is more along the lines of. No, I think there really isn't one. Like we're talking like, if
No, I
your
don't think so, yeah.
neighbor doesn't have any food for the day, like, well, come stop over at my like tent or shack or whatever they've got up here. Like I'll make up some extra soup. But I think it's very much like shared and helping each other. I don't think that there's really any.
Well, it's going to be a small enough community where I think that's possible.
Yeah.
I think it's like monetary gain isn't just it's just not going to be a thing, because I don't think wealth is going to be considered a thing in this place. Like it is literally completely based around this religion. It's going to be probably a lot of praying, a lot of like religious practices, and when it comes down to the needs of life, the community is going to hopefully be able to help each other as much as they can.
Your wealth that you've collected is the heart, or the amount of love you have in your heart for these dragons.
Yeah, basically. So yeah, that's something you could basically skip over. It's just the fact that it's like, these are non-wealthy like
Yeah.
monks or prophets.
And development as well, specifically, like, also pretty minor. I think that, like, the majority of infrastructure is like kind of methods of getting up and down, and like they
Yeah.
have, a handful of dozen of boats, like
Yeah.
small boats, like rowboats and stuff, and they have some ropes and they have some ladders and they have some like small domiciles,
Yeah.
but like there is no highway, there is no airport, there is
Yeah.
no, it's
They don't even have a Costco.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Population's too low for Costco to go in.
yeah, exactly. But yeah, so that's economic development, fucking zero.
Bare minimum.
Yeah. Cultural norms and taboos. Now, this is an inflated question, I think, for this place.
Yeah, I think that's the majority of what this place has got going on.
It's literal, yeah. So I think, okay, I think what actually we should do first is focus on the dragons before we
Yeah.
focus on the people.
Yeah.
So we wanted there to be 4 of them.
Yeah.
The dragons of the four winds, I think it's just cool.
It's cool. It's probably been done before, but it's cool.
Yeah, I can't say no, really.
And as long as we don't know where it's been done, it's not stealing.
I'm not sure if that's going to hold up in the court of law, but
Yeah, they did it first and they trademarked it, but I didn't know that they trademarked it.
yeah,
So
we're still going to send it.
yeah.
But yeah, so thinking on that, how often do you think these dragons are going to be around? Let's just say even just in this civilization in particular.
Always visible from somewhere.
You think so? At least one kind of thing?
I think
What?
everything is always visible from somewhere. That's how it works. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Real talk, though. Yeah, I mean, I think that they're, like, not uncommon to hear stories about, but pretty rare to actually see if you're just, like, living somewhere. Like,
Yeah,
if you're in a
like
village in Yothermere,
Yeah.
and you're just farming, and your father farmed before you,
Yeah.
like, your dad maybe saw it, like, twice,
Yeah.
3 times, and like you saw it once when you were young, but it's been a while. Like
Yeah.
you probably see it again at some point, you know. Like I think they're around, and like you hear stories, like travelers come through town, and they're like, "Oh, I actually saw it when I was across the seas, like 2 months ago or whatever. It was beautiful."
Yeah.
But I don't think that it's like super common.
Yeah.
But I do think that for here,
Yeah.
they're gonna see it all the time.
Yeah, so that you think these dragons are going to kind of almost like, I wouldn't say live here, but this is like some sort of weird
Regular occurrence, yeah, as they
Yeah.
stop by here for whatever reason we don't know
Yeah.
yet, till we make it.
Do you think so now that since there's multiple, do you think these dragons are going to come here in groups ever? Because I think
I think that if they ever did, that would be a grave omen.
I think so too. I think it's actually literally unheard of to see 2 of them in the same
Yeah.
place, which I think would also merit why like people kind of associate them with the wind, not only because they fly, but because of their distance from each other.
Yeah,
Like they're
yeah.
just never. They're never to be seen together, and I think it would be interesting if the general populace thought or depending on where you go, but some people might think there's only one. Some
Yeah.
people swear that they saw one, but it was a different color. And so like there's this kind of general confusion, I think, about the idea
Yeah.
behind them, because like you say, it's rare enough where like you're going to see them about as often as you see like an eclipse or a shooting star
Yeah.
or something that like people find interesting, but not frequent enough to have like an actual literature on it.
I was actually thinking as well, what if in similar ways to actual winds, these dragons have like sort of an area, like a cycle that they have, where like, like the polar vortex or whatever.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like one of them is like that. They're the northern dragon, and they pretty much just hang out and circle like the Arctic North. And so like you probably won't see it unless it like ventures further down south, which maybe in itself is a bad like a bad omen, because whenever the polar vortex comes south, we get freezing winds traveling,
Yeah.
whatever. But like unless you're on a boat like out in the north or on an Arctic expedition, like you probably won't see that one. But like the the Western Dragon of the Plains or whatever, like, does actually kind of more or less, like, it kind of cycled, not necessarily on the same path, like in the way that, pardon me, I forget the name. Crissa. Because they've got a path.
Yeah.
But these dragons might not necessarily have a path as much as they do, like, sort of a zone. And maybe, like, a part of that zone overlaps with the continent, but otherwise it's still got, like, a large amount of sea and stuff that it goes out into.
Yeah, maybe they do have areas. And that could be interesting, too, because maybe where you see them has a lot of meaning. Because, like you say, like, oh, well, you don't really see the Dragon of the North. You just don't. It's like it's an incredibly mysterious one. But when you do see it, that's typically like a omen of like winter.
Deep winter is coming this year, because the Dragon of the North, like the Arctic Circle dragon guy, is like venturing shockingly far down south, and maybe that's because he likes the cold winds and weather, and so that means the cold winds and weather are coming down south. Or maybe he brings it with them, that kind of thing.
Exactly, you could kind of make it one or the other, and it could maybe mean kind of multiple things too. It could just mean symbolically like winter, because it's like, it could also mean like a famine, not even necessarily because of the cold, but it could generally mean like there's going to be a lack. But then it's like, well, if you saw him, like if you ventured up into what would effectively be the Arctic Circle for this place, what you seeing him there is not abnormal. And so you say like the Dragon of the West, perhaps like just when you do see them in on the Western continent or anything like that, it might have a positive omen. But if you can see him from the Eastern continent, that means, like likely times of war or something like that. Maybe not even directly with the West or something like that. But, and these are, I just like the idea that it's like there's this kind of interpretation to it. And you kind of have to know what you're looking for.
Yeah, and maybe the only people that actually know this for sure, are these sort of prophet people. But like a lot of people sort of extrapolate meanings on their own because... Well, their great-grandpappy saw it come south once, and it brought with it all kinds of pain and suffering.
Yeah, and well, that's the thing is, and even maybe someone did directly hear a prophecy. But I don't think these omens are going to mean the same thing every time either. So it's like, oh, well, last time we saw the Dragon of the East on the Western continent, freaking Zawala went to war with this other place, but now this time it comes and it means something entirely different. It means like, there's going to be a coup within Zawala instead of like war or something like that. So people get confused because they assume it's going to be this really direct science, but I like the idea that it's a little bit more mysterious, and that's why.
Last time it was war, this time Jeffrey's getting an immaculate conception. Like it can be anything. But also I was thinking too, like if they do have sort of zones, I think that the actual like spot that they all converge, like the place where all of those sort of boundaries meet, is right there.
Yeah, that would make...
And so like that's also probably the place that they frequent the most too, is whether or not that place has meaning to them, or if it's the people that have meaning to them, but they come there more often than anywhere else. And they maybe hang out and do a little whispering back and forth. But yeah, so that's kind of where all of the quadrants meet, and then other than that, they've got this section of the globe is covered, and that section of the globe is covered.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit more like when you see like maps of like wolf packs, though, where there is like
little bit of
interwinding and stuff like that.
It's not a hard border. It's just that's
just
their
general.
spot,
Yeah, exactly. And so it leaves area for these omens to develop and stuff like that. But yeah, so I really like that idea. But yeah, so they'll come by. I like the idea that it's not like there's never a timing to it. Like there's just no way for it to predict.
No intentional timing that anybody has been able to work out. It's just whenever they. I mean, the only people that know are going to be the prophets. But maybe there is no specific timing. There is no specific reason. Even sometimes maybe they just are in the neighborhood and drop by and they're like, I heard that it's going to be a good year for grapes, or whatever. And then maybe sometimes they do come by because they specifically want to tell the big news or whatever. But the only people that know that
Do you think they like directly like land and interact with these people?
See,
or
I actually had a vision in my head of like, old prophet main head guy sees him coming from a distance and like hobbles up to like this like one rock, like Pride
the
Rock,
peak, yeah.
that like leans out over the sea and the wind is swirling and the dragon comes up like, almost face to face and does his little like rotatey tail because that's how Eastern dragons fly. I don't know.
Yeah.
And is sitting there, and maybe they're not saying anything at all, but they get the message, that kind of thing.
Yeah, totally.
I don't think they land. I think they stay up.
Yeah.
But I like the idea of him like going to where the rock meets the sky.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the bridge between the two.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I also had the thought of like, maybe sometimes they'll just like, they'll pass by closer than what you might, like if you were just someone in, again, like Eothermia or Feros or something like that, like they're going to be above the clouds.
They're exactly, yeah, they're going to be up there.
Whereas like for these, you might see them like half a kilometer away or something like that, and you just hear like the roar, which like at this distance, like you don't really hear very well. It's just like a or something like that, and
you probably couldn't hear that at all.
Yeah, probably not. You just pick up just the faint sound of them from the distance, and maybe that is something that like also like people will kind of take in and interpret. So maybe there's not even directly one way of doing it.
The dragon floats by from a few kilometers like, sell your Bitcoin. Did you say sell or buy?
Yeah, I have no idea. Was that Ethereum? I don't know. Just go for NFTs. Go for it. It would be also kind of interesting, I think, if each of the 4 dragons had maybe their own, like they had a little bit of personality to them.
Yeah.
Like maybe one of them likes to come up and like directly commune with a prophet,
Yeah.
whereas like another one like kind of just leaves a little message and then kind of fucks off at the same time. Like maybe it's way more distant. Maybe maybe some of them or one of them will actually like hang around for like a few days and like just be in the sky visible, and you have to kind of interpret it that way.
Yeah.
And so like they all have like this sort of method, and like it makes them a little bit more unique, so it's not just the same dragon copy pasted 4 times.
They've got like cat personalities.
Yeah.
One of them is just always floating around and wants your attention.
Yeah.
And then like, if the dragon of the north actually comes down to visit, like something's happening.
Yeah, something very important. Yeah, it's like, and one of them like will never eat when its bowl is half full.
Yeah.
But yeah, we should definitely work that out and come up with that.
The dragon of the south just shit on the carpet.
Yeah.
Come on.
And then the dragon of the east laid in it.
And ate it and puked.
Yeah.
Cats are messy.
But yeah, so okay, that gives us at least a vague idea on the dragons and stuff like that. They have different means of communicating in different ways.
Right. So I forgot we were actually supposed to be talking about cultural norms and taboos, and this is about the culture.
Yeah.
Should we actually talk about some norms and taboos before?
Really quickly, do you think maybe that there's going to be maybe sort of 4 different schools of these monks that are each dedicated to a specific dragon within the 4? Or do you think it's sort of a generalist thing and maybe some people have an affinity for it, and so they're almost sort of chosen?
Yeah, it's like, I think that it would be cool if it was just sort of a generalized thing, but then like maybe each dragon sort of has like a speaker that it'll like actually communicate with,
like a JBL or Sony speaker.
Yeah, Bose.
Dragon of the West is bassy.
They've each got one person that's sort of meant for them, and then there's also like the head prophet person, which probably actually does the communicating or most of the hearing and the speaking, and then maybe defers that to those, like one of each person. Like maybe they communicate, like if it was the Dragon of the East, they talk to the yellow wearing prophet who's the head of the East division.
Yeah.
And then that person is in charge of maybe actually interpreting this and sort of disseminating that out through
You know,
the others.
I like it being actually less structured than that,
Sure.
even. I do like the idea of there being like a head prophet for sure, but I think that's mostly just going to be via age and experience.
Yeah, and actually I do really like the potential for the situation where like young Timothy is out on the cliffs alone at
Yes,
night or
that's
whatever.
exactly what I was picturing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and like he's just sitting there and he's feeling dejected, like, oh, I'll never be a prophet.
yeah.
And then like
the kids at school keep telling.
the lightning bursts in the distance and it's the outline of yonder dragon like just sitting there like right beside him and he didn't notice. He's like, dragon of the east, what are you doing here? And then he's like, I just wanted to tell you that you're doing so good, son. Or you know, like you know what I mean? Those moments.
Don't go to school tomorrow. Oh, God. I'm sorry.
But yes, I like the idea of anybody actually being able to communicate with them. There's not a structure. They just maybe choose. Or otherwise is the head prophet in the case of they didn't have anyone specific they wanted to speak to or whatever.
Well, I don't even think, like, I'm not even sure if it's always the dragon's choice. Because, like I said, in the event where, like, one just rides by and basically, like you said, just is like, buy Bitcoin. Like,
There's also,
everyone will hear that, but maybe the message will only sink into one or a few people.
Yes. I also think it would be kind of interesting if there was also, like, anybody can interpret this, and maybe a few of them get it right, and everybody else is like, man, I missed that one. I wasn't listening close enough.
Yeah,
or whatever.
or like they kind of got something from it, but maybe not.
But they try and kind of like almost not necessarily compete because these are all pretty chill people, I assume.
Well, they probably get together and discuss any message that might have happened just to make sure that they have the complete picture in case there was something that was like, you know, you caught 90% of it, but then a little old Timothy who was speaking with the East Dragon last night got the last 10%.
Yeah. 75% of people said that it's a bear market.
Yeah.
And 25% said it's bull. So.
Yeah. But so...
Why are we doing that? Why is this turning into a crypto thing? It is funny though. It's a good bit.
Yeah, the the dragon of Ethereum and
4 dragons. Yes, there's Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, and
something else.
Name another one.
Solana.
Sure. I've heard
I do
that
not know
exists.
enough about this to even be joking about it. But yeah, either way, so yeah, there might be like a discussion about the message just to make sure that like everyone's clear on sort of what's going on. But so yeah, I think there will probably be a head prophet that people, like if there is any sort of like confusion, that they will take his interpretation. But I think again, it's going to be like, yeah, but he wasn't appointed.
Yeah,
it's just
the old experienced
guy, and so it's like he's and maybe like he's got another person that's just as old, but he's heard more prophecies, and so again, people just are like, you're the deal breaker, basically. Like you're the person who we think will understand this the most, but it's an art that is taught to them. But it's also not a science.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't just purely replicate it every time. Each dragon's going to send a message, and some people might have an affinity for one dragon, one message, or anything. But it is more mystical and magical than an actual, like, taught, like, this is Harry Potter school sort of thing. That's mostly what I wanted to see, because it was like, oh yeah, it was like, are they broken up into houses like Harry Potter, and then they try and go for each dragon, or is it a more mysterious thing? But okay, we're going with that. Cultural norms and taboos, actually, part 2.
See, weirdly, it's actually kind of hard now because I think it's such like a close community that I don't know if there is like cultural norms and taboos.
Well, I think the norms are going to be following the dragon. I think this might actually be something we'd have to look into a little bit more specifically in the third pass, because I think it's more specifics.
Agreed.
Like, what are the rituals that they're going to do? What, like, how does this religion function?
Yeah.
But like, yeah, the cultural norm is follow the religion of the dragons, and the taboos don't do that.
Yeah, and if you don't, then you're not supposed to stay. Like, you hit the road, pal. And I don't necessarily think that it's as much of a force you out as much as it is like well, yeah, now you got to leave.
Yeah.
Like that's
You
that's
don't
the
you
thing.
don't you just don't belong here, unfortunately.
Yeah, this is, the like monastery type place.
Well,
Like if you don't,
this place is also very much about secrecy.
yeah.
Though at the same time.
Well, yes, and I think, well, yes, but actually no. I don't think it's necessarily like as much secret as it is like kept for them.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Is like they're not going to. Again, maybe they were given a prophecy that they were supposed to bring to some lord or some rando in some random continent, and they go to do that. But any other knowledge of any other prophecies they're supposed to give must be kept secret at all costs,
Yeah.
because
It's to whom it may concern and
Yeah.
nobody else.
Exactly.
But also, like, it's not, I don't think, like, they kill people who approach so that they don't tell people about what they saw.
Yeah, no,
as
that's-
much as like, oh, like,
Hey, what are
no,
you doing here?
You can't come in. Like,
Yeah.
this is for us. Like, nice to see you, but like, no.
Like, do you need anything? Do you need some
Yeah,
water?
Yeah.
Like, if you're stuck, we can let you like stay the night, but like
Yeah.
you just can't continue to stay here
Yeah.
because yeah, I like to think that they're like nice and very kind and giving people, but yeah, there is just well, now you got to go. Like, we've done everything we can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll have to kind of nail that down a little bit more when we
Yeah.
tackle like the idea of that religion as a whole, like its own video sort of thing. Leadership in government. I think we kind of discussed it a bit
Sure.
already.
Yeah.
Like, it is a very community-based place, but I think there will be like an elder. But again, that's also more for like the religious reasons in the first place.
Yeah.
But so there's not even a mayor.
There's
like,
respected figures in the community.
yeah.
Like maybe one person doesn't necessarily concern themselves like with constantly listening and thinking of prophecies because they're like, well, somebody's got to make the soup.
Yeah.
And so they kind of like, turn themselves into like the town mother that like, hey guys, I'm just focusing on peeling some carrots today.
Yeah. Well, and like the taking care of the community and stuff like that. And then there's going to be some guys who are like very obsessed with the prophecies and are that like they dedicate that more to the religious practices. So it's like, yeah, you're going to have like your closer to normal folk that follow the religion.
Yeah.
They show up to church on Sunday.
Yeah.
But they're not going to be doing religious practices all the time, and then you're going to have that entire range.
Yeah, so no real like government as much as there are like respected
Elders, basically,
figures.
sort of. Yeah, exactly. So there's really not much to that. So moving on, important history and current events.
Important history and current events.
I feel like so much of important history is going to involve these guys one way or another.
I was going to say very tied in with a lot of important history. I think if we're talking about ones that have made them the nation that they are today, then that doesn't necessarily as much concern the others. But I think that there's going to be kind of waves of like, oh, we lost our 250-year-old like
village elder.
Yeah, the elder, and so it was like a dark period. But then like, oh, somebody like turned out to be like a natural for this. Like they were just born to do it, and like so we had like a really good time. We had good strong community and that kind of thing. But I don't necessarily think
it's just not. There's nothing political about
there's
it.
no wars.
Yeah, there's no.
There might be some drama, but that's not necessarily like giant.
They are the important history and current events.
Yes.
Like that's the thing.
I think a huge amount of other people's stuff is going to involve them, but they don't necessarily have as much stuff that was like groundbreaking, nation reshaping stuff, right?
Yeah, well, because they're going to be such a consistent people at the same time. Like Firos might have cultural changes as time goes on.
Here's one.
Okay.
When did they start doing that? When did they get there? When did they start?
That is an excellent question. Like I think it's basically going to be a time immemorial thing because realistically, the very leviathans that they worship in the first place have been around again, sort of prehistory, and so it's going to be like maybe the culture's changed a little bit and become more religious, but whoever made their way up here and kind of started the whole religion in the first place, that's been a constant through line for them this entire time. And so are they older than Zawala's, like when it was a giant nation and the Titans were around? I don't think so.
I don't think so, but maybe not terribly far
after
that. Like, I would say they're old, but not the oldest.
Yeah. Well, because, we were thinking that basically the civilization that is now the Zawala Desert, that was basically where humans started.
Yeah.
Like, that was the genesis point of, like, civilization and life. Maybe not life in, like, the grand scheme, like plants, animals, etc., but, like, like humans.
Humans as we know.
Yeah, exactly. And so that was the genesis point. So, it can't be pre that, but in basically whatever calamity sort of caused this desert, like drove humanity outward. Like, it was basically in the aftermath of that these people might have started.
I think honestly maybe pre like collapse.
Okay.
I think because there were Leviathans pre-collapse.
Yes.
And these ones are going to be some of the oldest and biggest and most important ones. And I think that maybe like there were people from this, while this was like a bustling nation, Zawala, the desert, before it was really the desert that it is now. I think maybe, you know, they were kind of like following these things that they believed in, these things that they thought were whispering them omens, and then happened across this magical place.
Well, they followed them until, because they always returned.
Found the sort of culmination point.
That's an interesting
and settled
idea.
down there, and then not maybe long after all of the collapsing happened. But I think that, they probably would have even been before, like, that whole drama went down.
Yeah, no,
because that also really took out, like, the amount of people and stuff that were there, too. So I think it'd be cool if
it's an interesting idea that instead of being driven out and sort of finding a new home, like, again, it's sort of more like spiritual for them to have followed something that was calling to them.
They took kind of like a pilgrimage or whatever, right? Yeah. And followed this like North Star of the dragons, right? Yeah. And then found this holy spot. Yeah. And
then continued from there. And so that's cool. I like that. I like that idea a lot. But like you say, like important history and current events, they're involved in everyone else's. They're involved in everyone else's. So when it comes down to like wars starting, droughts, natural disasters, Leviathan disasters, things like that. Like
they got the finger on the pulse of all of it, but they don't necessarily have too much drama going on at home necessarily.
Well, because in a freaking community of 200 people, what is there to do?
Susan borrowed my sugar and she didn't lend me a favor the next time.
Yeah.
And then Susan's like, well, but I didn't have a ratchet, so I don't know what you want me to do. But that's the biggest drama that goes on.
So that's about all that you can touch on that. So vibe.
Well, I've mentioned it a couple of times, but I want it to be like Halong Bay kind of, but bigger. Like we're talking like windy, salt spray-y, big tall rocks, beautiful but intimidating. And I think that like the nature surrounding it is really beautiful, but also like it's constantly like gray and windy, and you're getting salt sprayed at you violently, and like.
I mean, actually, here's another question too, and the dragons that represent the four winds culminate here. There's probably some fucked up weather, isn't there? Like not just merely like, oh, it rains lots. Yeah. Like, I feel like there's got to be some level of like one thing that they have to endure is the fact that like you are going to encounter all types of weather here. Like it's going to snow here, it's going to be fucking arid, it's going to be humid, it's going to be dry, there's going to be all manner of things falling from the sky. So that might be a challenge that these people have to face all the time, is that the fact that the things that bring weather and just climate to everywhere all center here. I feel like there's going to be a level of unpredictability, funnily enough.
And I think that also kind of boils into omens in themselves. They're like, oh, we got a dry wind from the south.
Yeah.
You know, and that means something.
Yeah,
But,
true. Yeah, it's unpredictable to anyone but them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
But that might just be an interesting thing more. That's more like something you would describe to like a player or like a character that's encountering that place. I don't think there's going to be a lot of current events to do with that.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's fair enough. But yeah, I get a vibe of very monk,
Very monk.
Yeah.
Very, I'm not also super familiar, but I want to say, like, we're talking, like, Tibet, Nepal, like, mountain monks.
Yeah, a lot of like just what they do in their daily life is to just do with this practice.
Yeah.
And also sort of like not having any wealth or anything like that, and sort of helping out the community. So yeah, that's just going to be obvious. It's giving a little bit of airbender as well.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure.
But I don't know. I feel like it's pretty crystal clear exactly what you need to do with that. Do we want to do a flag for these guys?
See, I kind of, honestly, almost in the same way that we did for Asagrat, think more of almost like an insignia than like a proper flag. Like maybe something that like they like pin their sashes with, like a medallion of some kind. Because I was thinking that for these guys, it kind of feels a little bit free to do like an Ouroboros with like 4 dragons like eating each other's tails almost.
Yeah, I was picturing definitely something like that, but less munchy.
Yeah, not specifically munchy, but you know where like the 4 dragons meet.
No, you're totally.
Right?
I think I would want to simplify it a little bit, so that it's just like easily. Most flags, not all of them, but most of them are meant to be easy to put down.
Yeah.
So that anyone can kind of like represent them if they really have to. Definitely not all of them. Not looking at anyone in particular, but yeah. So I think something that kind of represents the dragons would be easy enough. The way it is in Asagrat with them, it's like they use that as a religious symbol. I think for here, I think it might be less of a religious symbol and more they use it for the sake of like diplomatic immunity. Like not the fact that it's like, oh, you can't touch me, I have this, but just to signal to people, hey, I'm like one of these monks, and so like I'm neutral, I'm here typically to help and hinder as little as possible. And so it's more for showing the outside world that like what your intent is.
Yeah.
They don't actually use it or need it within their actual thing, and it's not used for any diplomatic reasons. It's more it's like kind of how like you wouldn't attack a priest on the road, you know, if
No, obviously I wouldn't do that.
not looking at anyone in particular. But yeah, like you'd have like a religious envoy would be given a lot more slack, rather than just like any old person.
Yeah,
and again, it's like they're like, hey, like I'm on my way to deliver some sort of prophecy, and you can like this is to represent that, so people just understand. So it's more for everyone else and not for them.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of envisioning like, you know, if they've got like robes or something that like kind of already symbolize who they are, this thing that is their like flag is more like, you know, like the clasp that binds their sash to their whatever, like it's just something that can constantly be seen on them. It represents them, but is not a flag. Like it's straight up just like, you know, if somebody were to draw the thing that they think of when they think of them, that would be it.
Yeah.
But it's never used as a flag. It's only used as like a symbol that is usually affixed to like a priest, a monk, or whatever.
Yeah.
An
I guess it does
envoy.
act kind of as a holy symbol, but I think I don't think they would use it as a holy symbol within their practice. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Like whereas I think the people in Asagrat who are like
They
weirdly
would,
culty
yeah,
about the undead moose, I think they would like use that as like a representation.
Yeah, whereas then they're like, oh, what's that? And they're like, oh, this is just the pin of the 4 dragons or whatever. Like it holds my scarf on. But it's also got the 4 dragons on it. Isn't that beautiful? You know?
Yeah, exactly. But I guess we'll have to draw that up so you can
right back.
understand what the hell we're talking about. So, see you in a bit. And we're back.
So, we chased the idea of these sort of like Ouroboros, like style symbol Because again, these people aren't really going to have a flag as much as they will have like a symbol that a lot of them wear on them and stuff like that. But instead of the dragons sort of eating each other's tails kind of thing, we have shifted it to be more of like the four winds, where they sort of meet, but then also have like a different little like symbol for them to represent different things that these dragons will represent. And this is what it looks like. The enshittified version.
Yeah. Yeah, show the shittified version first, of course.
Okay, and here's the better version.
Oh my god!
The better version that we're forcing at gunpoint our editor and producer to make that we haven't seen yet. That is going to take a long time, a lot of effort.
Where the hell's the gun?
That's my secret, Captain. I'm always gun. But either way, so yeah, this is probably more going to be something like a pin that they wear rather than an actual flag or anything like that. But I can also see that being used by other countries to represent them as well, like and putting it on paper or a banner or something like that.
It may be like a pin or a sigil or a stamp or something like that.
Yeah.
But occasionally, might actually be put down onto paper or not, maybe not necessarily flag-wise. But regardless, this will be the symbol that is the people that they're referring to. This is their symbol.
But either way, so we have a little bit more. This honestly just made me understand a little bit more how excited I am to get into the specifics, because I want to work out like the interesting details about this religion. Because tackling this area, like there wasn't a lot politically to go into, but it really does show exactly how much there is going to be here.
Stick around for season 3 when we get into the nitty gritties and the fun little details. That's where all the drama's at.
But either way, we need to name this place.
Yeah, we do.
Oh, frick, we didn't actually do that.
We should have done that while we cut.
Uh-oh.
Okay, give us a second. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Back. On the floor.
What you got for me, fam?
Okay. So, how do you feel about something along the lines of Kataro,
We were talking about cats a lot.
Uh-huh. Were we?
Yeah, remember dragon cats?
Yeah, that's right.
Dragon of the East shat on the floor?
Yeah. Because this, I won't tell you what language it is. Not that you could probably tell from my bullshit accent.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound anything like the original.
Yep.
But it is based off of a translation into a hidden secret language. See if you can find it. From Four Winds, Fourth Wind, Fourth, etc. About the sort of idea of four and quadplexes.
Mine was pretty straightforward. It was Yuyan.
Yuyan?
Yuyan. Translates to prophet.
Yeah, that's valid.
What was yours? Cataracts?
The cataracts. I believe it's Katero, technically. But it could also be Katara.
Keitaro Yan.
Say it again?
Keitaro Yan.
That's kind of hard. Like, as in it goes hard.
Yeah, I was going to say,
Also
do you
hard
mean
to say.
difficult?
Kataro Yan?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. What would the, like, other tense be? So, like, oh, yes, he is...
Keitaro Yan.
Katarayani. Like, what would you call somebody who's from there, then? A blank monk. A blank emissary.
That's a good question, because it's a lengthy name.
Yes, and anytime you have, like, a multi, like, word name, yeah, you gotta worry about how to break that down. Break it down.
Dun, Yeah, it honestly makes me think that we could just go with, because as much as I like the yawn sound, saying you're Kitaro Yanese makes me want to say you're just Kataran.
Sure, yeah, or what also though Yanni.
Yeah, you could
That's
just
not
shorten
half
it.
bad. That's not half bad.
Yeah, and it's got a bit of a distant feel to it. So yeah, I guess they could shorten it by just removing the front half and using the yawn.
Well, because in this case, like, despite the fact that we've pulled it from real life words, it doesn't necessarily have to mean the same thing that we punched into the translator, because Kataro could be like, of the 4 winds, and Yanni could be like, prophets. And then it could be like shortened down to like, oh yeah, we're the prophets, right? Or, whatever, like, that kind of thing. So
Maybe Kataro.
I kind of like Kataro, I think. I don't know, they're both good.
Maybe Kataro is the technical location, but to be from that place is to be
For
Kataro
sure.
Yan.
For sure.
Which also adds like an interesting idea to like maybe the language that goes in that area. You don't say like, you don't say I'm Yothermerian or Ferosian.
Actually, that one I do call them. I call them Ferocians.
Yeah. But that's just to imply like I am a person of this,
Yeah.
but this implies automatically that you are like kind of a member of the religion at the same time. Like
yeah.
so yeah, we could go with that. So Keitaro Yan is what the people maybe refer to the place as.
Yeah.
Because it's like they consider them and the place to be synonymous, but other places refer to it as just Keitaro.
Yeah.
And then for a person to come from there, they call them a Keitaro Yan.
Yeah.
That's an interesting idea. So yeah, let's go with that.
Cool. All right, let's pencil it in. How are we spelling it? Put it up on the board.
K-A-Y-A-R-O-A.
Wait. Stop. K-A-Y.
T-A-R-O-Y-A-N.
Okay.
Umlaut?
What's the one that looks like a Pizza Hut thing?
I'm not even sure if we should play around with those because I like to put them in places and I don't know how they sound. Because they're very specifically supposed to change how something sounds. Okay, Keitaro, also known as Keitaro Yan, aka Keitaro Yan.
It's done.
All right, well.
It's on the plate. It's dinner. Eat it up. It's what's for dinner. Serving up nations.
I've never been so afraid in my life.
You're welcome.
But yeah, so either way, that is one of the... Man, we've been waiting on that one for a long time.
That one's been, hanging out in the background, waiting to be done.
And frankly, it's got so much more to go, but we'll have to get there, and you'll have to come with us.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning.
Third pass, season 3, 3 seasons.
Coming up probably soon-ish, maybe.
Yeah, we got another give or take. Okay, the city-states are a mess. That's going to be a bit. But we got basically 3 more locations we want to hit before we start getting into the real nitty-gritties.
Yeah.
So hang in there. We're about to get messy.
But until then, thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye. Hey there. Welcome to the end card. Thanks for watching the video. If you liked it, even a little bit, give it a like and subscribe, possibly, maybe, perhaps. Definitely. Perhaps. But this is the part where we read some of your guys' comments. So if you truly want to be featured in a video, leave a comment and you could end up in an episode. Like, for example...
I have here from a short that we posted talking about secret codes and thieves' cant and things like that. A comment from Ryan Casey 9763 who was talking about, in terms of thieves' cant, right, so make it Gen Alpha slang. Yes, good luck understanding that, boomer.
Oh my god.
I've also got one from CB-LG1PK who said, I can say I've never stolen anything. Thieves can't. Got him.
Nice.
Nice.
This is good.
Do any of us know any Gen Alpha slang?
Skibbity.
What does that mean?
Skidibidibidi-dap-dap-dap-dope. Dap-dap-dap-dope.
No, not really.
Yeah, no, I have zero.
I feel like, I mean, with any, like, generational slang, usually you can kind of just tell, like, what they're talking about.
Yeah.
You know, if you talk, like, that guy's got swag, that guy's got riz, like,
Yeah.
you can kind of piece it together.
Yeah, if you have the context clues, you can kind
Yeah.
of see it. If you're looking at, like, just straight up the word in isolation, you might have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just said skibbity. Can you use that in a sentence?
Skibbity toilet.
That's not a sentence.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I have nothing. What I do have is this comment here from, it was from the short, what's your character's favorite drink? Consider it.
Milk water.
Your local correct idiot 927, who is correct, by the way, said simply, Pepsi.
That's so true. My like medieval fantasy character really likes Pepsi. Not big on Coke though.
Yeah,
know.
no,
they
I mean,
can tell the difference.
Yeah, and truly, Pepsi is the superior
So
option.
funny.
And I want to say that very clearly so that everyone in the room understands. But I actually had this thought that how fucking crazy would any type of cola be? Let's say Coke or Pepsi.
Sure.
How crazy would it be to just sit down like a freaking
A
12th
peasant from the 12th century.
Yeah, and then you just pour them Pepsi out of like a bottle so they can't see anything, like no branding or anything. You just pour it out of a mysterious bottle, this brownish black liquid that bubbles and goes, and then they're like, or you're like, drink it. And they're like, I don't want to, like that looks acidic.
You'll
and you're
change
like,
your mind once you drink it,
Yeah,
and then it starts biting their mouth, and they're like, ah!
yeah, they have carbonation for the first
Yeah.
time, and they're just gonna be like, pfft. And then it's like, no, just drink it, and they drink it, and then immediately become addicted to it because it's the
Yeah.
highest sugar content they'll have
Yeah.
in like 300 years.
And then they crash out in 45 minutes and feel depressed.
Yeah, exactly. Like how crazy
Yeah.
that would be a potion
Yeah.
by their standards at that point, and we just got it. Corey sips his cola in the background.
Noma Cola.
Yeah. But either way, thank you, your local correct idiot 927.
I was going to, and then you made me laugh.
I have one here from Arya the Millennian 8088. This was from Forgotten Abilities, our Forgotten Abilities short, where we talked about how occasionally your characters will just forget that they have something that would be incredibly helpful and important for an exact moment. This Arya says, the first campaign I ever played, I played a rogue. I kept forgetting to hide.
Oh.
That's rough.
Oh.
That is, but no, man, you're just giving yourself a challenge.
Yeah. Like, if it's on your first character, there's no shot that you're actually going to do all of the stuff correct.
Yeah, true.
It's just about feeling it out and having fun at the end of the day. Plus, you can still get your sneak attack without ever having to sneak. Which feels a little weird, but regardless...
It's possible.
It is well, I mean, also if you think about it, there's like swashbuckler rogue, who I mean, you can hide as a swashbuckler, but like, your whole thing is like, you get advantage from like harassing them and like taking them off guard and like...
Your mic is rubbing up against you.
No, you're totally right. There is other ways to sort of do it or flavor it. And I mean, I also know of, like, literally one of my players literally plays a warlock that is, like, not really great at talking or generally charismatic things. I've allowed them the liberty of not having to have a minimum charisma to
multi-class.
Yeah, in order to multi-class for this case, but still, the idea of like putting limitations on what your character's supposed to be best at actually isn't even necessarily a bad thing.
No, it can make for a lot of fun moments, not only in the campaign and playing, but also that I'm sure was a funny moment for you when you finally realized, like, 30 sessions later that, like, oh, I can sneak! You know? So it's all about having fun at the end of the day.
Yeah, totally. But anyway, those are the comments for today. Thank you. If you want to be featured,
Leave them below.
Yeah, do it. Do it. Tell us how you disagree with all things that we say.
Yeah.
But either way. But yeah, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.